We're getting better at social distancing. No one likes it, but as humans do, we're adapting. Zoom meetings are a poor substitute for face to face interaction. There's something missing. You can still see people and hear them, but energy doesn't flow through the internet the way it flows through a room. Eugene Jimenez of the Doseum is an interactive guy in an interactive job, and he has some ideas on how to get that interactive feeling back. Welcome to BexarCast. I'm Randy Langford, and this is BexarCast, a weekly interview with business, political, education, and nonprofit leaders. We're examining the relationships between all four and how each one benefits from the success of the other three. Eugene Jimenez strives to meet the educational goals established by the Doseum that provide innovative teacher professional development and out-of-school time learning experiences for local teachers and elementary school students. With 16 years of educational work, Eugene is one of two senior educators that work with San Antonio ISD to provide and maintain constructivist teaching and learning with the district's Master Teacher Program. He works with two SAISD campuses for out-of-school learning with the Doseum after-school program that provides students opportunities to learn and demonstrate growth mindsets. Eugene, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you making the time.
Thank you, Randy. And like I said, this is a great honor to be on this podcast with you.
My pleasure. I went into your background a little bit in your introduction, but just like everything else, like us, like every nonprofit, the Doseum's plans and schedules have kind of been turned over by the pandemic. How has your work as a professional, your work in professional development for teachers and out of school learning been affected by the COVID crisis?
COVID caught us by surprise. We
Oh, yeah.
knew what was happening on with the rest of the world. Individuals that like to keep themselves up to date knew what was coming. The funny thing is, though, I worked with a stint with Region 20 a few years back in 2013, and we attempted to have distance learning PD. We attempted to be able to reach educators, teachers that were out as far as Eagle Pass, Del Rio, Uvalde, Crystal City, Natalia, that couldn't come into the center. And so I was doing this already.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
said, back in 2013, I was in one of the science labs at Region 20. And so we had put out that, yes, we're having professional development for an hour, be able to work with a specialist and concerns, questions in regards to education. And so I was down, I'd set up, have everything going, I'd go live, crickets, absolutely nothing.
Oh,
Wouldn't
wow.
have any educators that were interested in that. And we did that for a good 3 months, and we came back and started seeing what is it about it that wasn't just intriguing. And so it's at that time I would have thought if we really would have given the individuals a sight into the future, they would have been lining up because they would have been able to have that experience of building relationships
Right.
via distance learning. And so to answer your question, to me, and I told individuals, it's like going backwards in time. It's like at a point where I was already trying to pioneer this, get this up and running, because it saved a lot of wear and tear on my vehicle having to drive
Mm-hmm.
out on a weekly basis this route. And so I had to look at it and think it's nothing. It's tragic that it was a medical, health-wide, worldwide phenomena that occurred this, but it was also
Right.
disappointing where we had already laid the foundation. A lot of the foundation
Yeah.
had already been in place, and it was just trying to try to make it very effective for educators. And it just at the time, it just didn't catch on.
Right. Are they more receptive to the concept now of doing this via long distance?
Very receptive to it
Okay.
now because it became the new norm.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so they're starting to see that at the before, when we have individuals and we're in the same environment, the same space, that it's different communication
Right.
because the body language, you're able to read the body language of the participant. Here it's more intentional, more very specific, and so it's exhausting. And so it's looking for the right way to communicate a very important subject matter, or sometimes a very tricky concept across.
Right.
And so it goes back to the saying that people say, you see what I'm saying? And so I know I can't see what you're saying, but I can listen, and I have to really focus and have that effective listening skill to be able to draw it out. So it's tiring, but it's really rewarding because I've seen the teacher relationship with their colleagues become stronger. I
Mhm.
have seen the relationship with the teacher and student become stronger. I've seen the relationship between the teacher and the caregiver become stronger. And I am actually seeing the relationship between the student and caregiver becoming stronger because nothing brings people together like being in the same lifeboat.
Yeah.
And so you always have to realize that for your own benefit, you have to be a contributing member.
Right.
And so going back to it, one of the key components of the Doseum's mission statement is community, is growing that community, that strengthening that relationship with families and children. And so I feel like this has given us the opportunity to
Right.
really get that cornerstone solidified.
Yeah. If you see the glass is half full, then this is definitely an opportunity.
Oh yeah, we're talking about the growth
Absolutely.
mindset, and we kicked that. It's like you have to look at it as the
Right.
growth mindset. You have to look at it the opportunity to be able to see that I can contribute. I
Yeah.
can be an active participant in the educational community.
And spread your net ever further.
Yeah, they're further
That,
because,
like
like
you
I
were talking
said,
about the people in Carrizo Springs or Del Rio, that I'm not coming all the way to San Antonio.
yeah,
Well, now they're much more accessible, or you're more accessible
yes,
to them.
yeah,
Right.
and they're starting to see it's like the feedback. Why haven't we ever done this before? We offered it to you.
Yeah.
It's
Where were
like San
you?
Antonio ISD was doing a great job giving their teachers the ability to have professional development in PJs. And so that's exactly what we were doing on Saturdays.
PD
And
and
so they were
PD,
telling you, you
PJs.
don't have to leave your house.
Right. That's encouraging news that you are able to engage more people in a wider area, but it's got to be disappointing not to be able to pursue your mission as fully throated as you would like, as you had planned. How do you personally deal with that? How do you deal with the isolation and the chomping at the
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. I've got something to say. I need to say it.
Yeah. Any teacher will tell you that the energy that they get from their student cannot be replicated through
Right.
distance learning. And so the energy that you get from your colleagues, you start to see it. It was isolation. I mean,
Yeah.
you really, there were times in the day where you would feel your energetic drag and you knew what was missing. You did not get that interaction. You did not get that aha satisfaction that today one person learned something new and they shared it with others. It's because of something that you modeled, something that you taught. And so you're right, because the first 30 minutes of my day pre-COVID would be spent down in the galleries of the Doseum. I would walk the galleries. I would look at the guests. I would look at the students. I would look at the teachers, seeing how they're interacting with the galleries and exhibits. And it would just get my mind going in regards to future PD. And so that was the toughest thing for the first 28 days. There's a moment there. It's like, I'm no longer a teacher. I don't feel like a teacher
Right.
because I'm missing out on that 30 minutes. I'm missing out on really looking at an individual engaged in focused play. And so it was difficult. It was really difficult.
Yeah, I bet. You mentioned your role as an educator, and I'm particularly interested in that. The educator cohort program that you're the driving force behind. Tell me about that. Is it about developing educators and leaders, or tell me the bones?
Okay. I looked at this because we were very intentional in regards to the educator cohort. It began through Dr. Vanessa Westbrook, and so that was back in 2016.
Right.
And so it changed. Dr. Vanessa Westbrook did a wonderful job in regards to elevating teachers' ability with STEM. And so there's been a change, and it's been a very deliberate change. Now, for the educator cohort, we grounded ourselves into core values and commitments. And so for the educator cohort, we are guided by principles of joyful teaching and learning so that we can meet educators where they are and can further their practice. We build trusting relationships with educators because we know that educators learn best in the presence of compassion and love. We know that there is no learning without trust, and we apply a growth mindset and we take the long view. We recognize that practicing transformational learning and changing behaviors, beliefs, and being will take time. And so Dr. Westbrook did a great job of elevating content. She did a really wonderful job of enhancing the ability of our teachers to embrace and become passionate about science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Yet, as it progressed, like anything evolves, we started to see that there are some components that we can elevate and enhance. The very first thing that I did when I took a look at it is being very specific in regards to the wording. What we found out is it was the STEM teacher cohort. That word teacher, nothing wrong with it. It's a great title. It's one I aspired to, because if I had to have a title throughout written on my tombstone, definitely would have father, but then after that would be teacher. Yet we found out that there were a lot of individuals that didn't self-identify as a teacher. And so we have the educator cohort. And so teachers are educators. And so a lot of individuals that we work with, they didn't give themselves enough credit. And so they would say, you know what, Mr. Eugene, I'm not a classroom teacher. I'm a librarian. And so they would always look for ways to knock themselves down. They would always look to themselves not to give themselves the credit that they deserved. And so we have individuals that do a very wonderful job of homeschooling. And they also stumbled upon that. I'm not a teacher, because they defaulted to a teacher in the historical sense is in a classroom. And so more and more, it's like, this was before COVID-19, where I had to really hammer it into my cohort members. It's like, you are educators. It's like those individuals that are in their homes right now are educators. We have to reach out with them and support them. And so because the classroom is gone. And so if for right now, it's like we need to be able to see where we're working. And so that was one of the biggest changes, is having that conversation with the participants, because there were still individuals that work at districts, that work on campuses, and still would not feel comfortable calling themselves a teacher. And I'm thinking, you're not a certified teacher, or you might not be a classroom teacher, but you are an educator. And talking to them that way, having that conversation with them, got them to stop beating up on themselves, got them to really start to realize that, you know what, education is for everybody. I'm educated in many different fields. And so long as I'm able to share my education, so long as I'm share my knowledge, I'm fulfilling a niche, I'm fulfilling a role.
I kind of take that attitude with Bearfest, and one of the elements that we're very particular about, the reason we put kids in nonprofit organizations, the reason we pair teams with nonprofit organizations, is I'm a firm believer that everybody is a role model. Everybody, whether you want to be or not, kids are looking, kids are watching.
Exactly.
The only choice you have is whether you're a good one or not.
And
Whether
so,
you
and
model
here's,
behavior you want them to
and
do.
it calls on us to be able to be very aware of our being. And so a lot of things that you're talking, we with the educated cohort, we really instill that with individuals to be leaders. And so we want to elevate them because of that last portion where it's transformational. It needs to be transformational, and the transformational has to become within. So you need to be very aware of who do you want to be. And so you're a teacher, you're an educator, you always have eyes watching. You always have individuals listening. And so that growth mindset is always be very aware of what you intend to say and what you mean to say.
Because you are teaching.
Yeah.
Whether you meant to or not, you're teaching.
Yeah, and it all depends. And here's the thing: we also share with the students. It's like you have a choice now, also, because you're an active, engaging in participant in your own education.
Right.
You could look at it negatively as a deficit mindset, or you could look at it as a growth mindset. I was taught or I was modeled a way. If not, it's not effective for me. And it's like, that doesn't mean it's good. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not effective for me. It doesn't help me to achieve the goals that I've set for myself. So we instill that at an early age with our students. And so it helps the teacher to realize, and I shared with the cohort, I never ask anyone to be perfect. because I am an imperfect individual. How can I ask individuals to be perfect when I'm still striving? I'm still a process in its work. And so because it was breaking that practice makes perfect. And I would tell my cohort members, no, practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so we keep practicing like a skill over and over again where it becomes permanent. It's so ingrained. And so to get them to take that off their shoulders, you're not perfect. Because the greatest discoveries that we've had in science have come across because of an accident, because of a mistake. But individuals have to have the ability, the growth mindset to look, oh, let's find out what happened. I need to know, where did I go wrong? And so now I can replicate it. And if I'm replicating it intentionally and purposefully, I've got something that is going to help society, help our community, help save the world.
I'm especially interested in the cross-discipline approach you take, combining STEM with the arts and literacy. That's very much what we're doing at BexarCast, and I don't see any reason that they can't be combined, just like they are in day-to-day living.
Okay, and so you're right, relevance, right? It's like we find, and we were just before this, we were talking about finding beauty in nature. It's like it's an art. It's like there's no way that we would be able to do precisely exactly what nature does on an every single day. So thinking about this was very controversial, is because it gets branded, and so individuals look for the most simplistic, and so there's nothing wrong with that. Is that yet sometimes there are very complex ideas and they need to be complex. And so STEM, very simplistic: science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And so a lot of individuals could default and self-identify as scientists. A lot of individuals could self-identify as being technology savvy. And so, or engineers, like I have an engineering degree. I don't have an engineering degree, but I do have qualities and traits of an engineer. And so, and we see how successful that is with our students that are learning, because they are natural builders. They have that natural inquiry. They've got that curiosity. And then mathematics is the language of the universe. It comes down to it. It's like, look, I'm not asking individuals to fall in love with math, but I'm asking them to respect mathematics. And so it was a natural progression from STEM to STEAM. The Doseum, we do a lot of our research. And so we very involved in a book for the search for method in STEAM education. And my epiphany, my aha moment was where mathematics is an art form. It's like, if you look at some of the paintings, it could be broken down to numerical equations. And so I looked at it that way. And so where you have conversations with individuals that are mathematicians, they'll tell you, say, it's an art form. There's just a beauty in regards to the patterns. So when the Doseum, we took a look at that, we started to see like, yeah, the arts are a very important part in regards to education. Yet you got the language of the discipline. And so I defer to those individuals that are engineers. I defer to those individuals that are mathematicians. And I also defer to those individuals that are artists. Yet you have a conversation with a teacher that has been in the classroom for 25 years or more, and they'll tell you, we're artists in ourselves. We have a natural ability to be able to communicate and form relationships. And that's what art is. Art is making individuals feel comfortable, passionate, excited about something. Yet I wouldn't be able to tell you about Picasso, Cubism. I wasn't be able to tell you about the different art schools or different schools of art in regards to drawings, colors, but I can tell you the science behind it. It's like we got primary colors, and if I do something with those primary colors, I get different shades. And so we've been moving forward with this cohort to get individuals to look at contents that way, where you if you default to science, bring in the mathematics. If you default to language arts, bring in the mathematics. If you default to technology, bring in the mathematics. Use mathematics as a cornerstone. And so doing that way, we start to see the true blending of the interdisciplinary, the true understanding of the content, the mathematical portions of it, and how they support one another.
Right. And I kind of want to play out this string, that there's the initial workshop, and then there are two more sessions. There's a practicum,
Yeah, there's a
where
practicum.
teachers get to put what they've learned into practice and
That's what it is.
kind of walk through it and say, yeah, this feels right. I can do this. And
And
then,
that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to get individuals to start to flex those muscles
right,
that they have already had, but they've never truly worked them. I mean, I put it this way: if our pioneers, if our early teachers could teach in a one schoolroom house, multi-age, multi-grade level, we can do it. What
right,
happened is just became very simplistic. Individuals defaulted to their likes. You always had individual. I'm a
sure,
reading teacher. I'm a writing teacher. We're all teachers. And so we
right,
need to just be able to understand and blend it together. Getting individuals to break out of that habit of being a specialist and going back to really embracing that, the generalist, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just being able to see how one another supports and enhances and elevates the teaching.
right, right. And then there's that final element, that third stage where they do the review and revisions and
Yeah.
here's what worked, here's what didn't, here's how we streamline it, here's how we make it more usable. And again, that sounds very much like what we do at Bearfest. The kids are in class where they learn the mechanics of how to run a camera, how to use the editing software. Then they go out in the field and they actually do that with their nonprofit client, and then they come back to the schoolroom and revise it and cut it and edit it and go to their client again. How does this look? Are you
Yeah.
satisfied?
And
There's
so,
there's that learn, practice, review model that makes the experience more. Does it make it more effective? Does it become more
yes,
ingrained? Is that a more
yes.
effective way of learning?
Yeah, one of the components we add, because I can always make a teacher's content stronger. And so for me, that is the most simplistic portion. Yet getting an individual passionate about it to extend it and not just to say, I just needed it for my professional development hours to get my
Mm,
continuing credit. And so I maintain my certification. I wanted to go beyond that. I wanted them to get that aha moment where, no, this is just effective. This is just what teaching is, and this is what it can be, and this is how it can support the community. So we added the third component, and so that is the art of coaching. And so we really follow that ability to have the conversations with the cohort members to really support them. It's that point where you're not alone. We're just, all right, you've done your full year, you're off on your own, because that's not a community. And
right,
so that's what the Doseum wants to do. We want to really elevate and enhance the educational community, the environment in San Antonio. So we need to seed the environment. And so we need to seed it with these leaders. We need to seed it with these individuals that know that the best teaching is, like you're saying, everybody's watching. I just want to model it. I want somebody to say, how do you do that? And so not only how do you do that, but why do you do that? And so I can see what it is you do, but using a thinking routine, parts, purpose, and complexities, I start to understand that complexities, how there is an action for every action of my own. And so to be able to do it intentionally. That was one of the things. Like, we watched Master Teachers. We did a very good program that we still have with San Antonio ISD, where we worked with our master teachers. And so the funny thing is, though, a student would be able to tell you when a master teacher walks into the room. It is just a presence, it's just a
okay.
feeling. And so other teachers would be able to tell you when a master teacher walks into a room. It's just that, and they always say it's just that thing. And
Uh-huh.
so, but being able to look at the qualities, traits of that master teacher. Number one thing is they were intentional. Everything they did was
Right.
intentional. They were 3 steps ahead of everybody. And so either they did it consciously or unconsciously. They just knew, they could see the map inside their head of what one small action would ripple and do.
Right.
And so it is a thing of beauty to watch.
It's a dance. Yeah, it's
Yes,
a
and that's
ballet,
what it
right?
was.
Yeah.
It's a ballet. It's very intricate dance. Yet the moves are very simplistic. It's once you've mastered those moves, and it goes beyond that, because you could say, like, I got really good at following a process, but it's more than that.
Okay.
It's animating it. It's instilling it with your spirit. And so that's what individuals would say of a master teacher. And
Yeah.
so when we get our educator cohort, they start to really embrace that they're not alone. It's like nobody does it alone.
Right.
And so it's just the art of communicating. We're giving you the vocabulary, we're giving you the means to be able to hold that conversation, either it be verbally or physically, with your participants, and to understand that it's always in motion. And so you always have to do the dance.
Right. The pandemic is changing the way everybody does everything, pretty much, and certainly it's changing education, how it's delivered and how it's received. It's changing nonprofits, how they deliver their services, how they serve their missions, and change can be hard.
Yeah.
But it's also a chance to improve.
Yep.
We talked about that a little bit. What positives do you see coming out of the reimagining of education that's going on right now?
Here's what I see, that the individuals we work with are no longer consumers of education, but true creators of education. I worked with a wonderful individual, Mark Barnett, and so we were up one spring in Austin by Southwest, and so we had a booth there for Region 20, and individuals were talking to us about STEM. Number one thing they wanted, curriculum. You have curriculum. Can you give us something that we can have in front of us and just follow? And Mark really embraced the fact that it's not a magic bullet. It's like there's research out there. We can give you professional development, but they want a curriculum that individuals could follow. And so
Just give me a roadmap.
Yeah, exactly. It's like now what I'm seeing is the ability for educators to become creators. And that's where you get the term of constructivist. And so constructivism, where you're constructing your education. And this is what we were doing beforehand, because we were making observations. We would look at those observations and say, what's effective, what's ineffective, what's working, what's not working. And so individuals are starting to realize it's like, I don't need a textbook. I don't need a computer program. What I really need to do is inspire an individual to inquire, ask why. Right. It's like, now that why did that occur? How did it occur? And what was it? And so that's why I see the big thing coming out of this is individuals were starting to embrace that we had to construct this. It's like there were pieces all over, yet we needed to put them together to complement one another. And to support learning, because we're all learning. It's like you said, it all depends on what we want to learn. It's effective or ineffective. And so the technology here, it's just supposed to, any tool, any technology is supposed to simplify, meet a need, but it's not the end all be all.
Right.
It goes more. You got to always, every day, wake up and say, what can I learn today? What can I construct today? What can I enhance today? And so, and the students, they're eating it up. It's like, I wear two hats. It's like, I'm the educator, but then I'm actually the caregiver. I've got two wonderful daughters. I've got an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old. And so it was difficult because they missed their teacher. They missed that relationship. They missed their school. They missed their classroom. They missed their friends. But I had to tell them, they didn't go away. I said, those individuals did not go away. And once they reestablished those relationships, they started to get really intrigued. It's like, how can I explain to my colleague that's not right here with me what I was doing today, why I was doing it, and what did I learn, and their excitement. So it became to go across. I mean, I'm enthralled by a 7-year-old. She's doing a great job. She's eating it up. And it's like, that's what I stop at the end of the day and think, that is what education is about. It doesn't just end at the school bell. She takes it and applies it to everything that she sees now. And so I'm kind of worried that when they do go back into the classroom, the Jimenez girls are going to become a little bit bored, but they'll have that sense that they are responsible. And they've already heard Daddy say it, that boredom is an opinion. Boredom is a choice. It's like, you really need to ask yourself, it's not the other individual's responsibility. I need to be able to figure out, like, what interests me, what holds my interest. And it goes for the teachers too. Teachers have become creative. I mean, our teachers have taken a problem and they found a solution for it. It's not the best solution, but it is a solution. And they are so open to evolution. They're so open to enhancement or elevation of it.
And this will evolve.
Yes.
What we're doing today will be in a year. Nobody does this anymore. There's a new way. There's a better way. Yeah.
No, because my wife started laughing. She goes, if they get really good at this, there's no excuse not to have school anymore. It's like, nope, no more bad weather days, no more snow days. It's like, boom, pop on the Zoom. You're okay. You hit it. And it's
at
like,
school.
Yeah, it's like even sick days. I say, oh, okay, you're not feeling well, but still you can log in and you can still engage. So
Right.
that's what I look at it. It's like the growth mindset is I envision that education truly will not stop.
Right. And that's a good jumping off point for where I want to go next is the ongoing education. Every minute is an education if you let it be. Bearfest started out as a way that when we created it, it was a way for kids to learn about media production, how to set up the lights, how to run the camera, how to do the editing, blah, blah, blah. What I'm hearing from teachers, from educators, is they tell me their students are learning, yeah, creativity because you're telling a story, but communications with their client, with each other, with the equipment, critical thinking, that, okay, we can set the lights up this way, or would it look better if we move to the other side of the room and set it up that way? And what about this cut? Can we do that differently? So they're practicing those critical thinking skills that just become automatic.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to practice anymore because it's second nature. How important are those lessons going to be to these young people when they move into the post-COVID world? They leave school and now they're out in the world. Are they going to be prepared?
Yes. And so the way I look at it, it's relevance. It's because now they're defaulting. When I started, it was the 4 C's. So you had communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking. And so now there are the 6 C's. And so you've got communication, you've got collaboration, you've got creativity, you've got critical thinking, but then you've got confidence, and then you've got content knowledge.
Let
And
me
so
add one more. Let me add
yes.
one more, that what we're doing is engaging kids in the community.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're right. You need that one. That one's going to come
Right.
up because I like the way that you put it. And this is the way we've also, with starting this cohort, I started to use the word client. And
Right.
so the reason being is that you got to know your client. And it's like before, it's like you just needed to know the student. And so, but you were missing an aspect. You're missing the caregiver. And so you understand that the way that you communicate with your clients is different because your clients have different needs. Your client has a problem. Your problem has a need. And you got to be able to understand, like, what's my solution for that client? And how is my solution different or more effective than someone else's?
Right.
And so that was a conversation where they excel so much at a different content, and people default it naturally because they love it. They're passionate about it. And I'm thinking it's engagement. It's just like it's anything else. It's like if you understand the engagement, the hook with the client,
Right.
the client is going to invest within it. And then you've got the relationship built, and then the community is built. And you're right, it continues on. It's layers on, but they're embedded and threaded with one another. So what I see is our COVID students being able to understand the importance of that communication, be able to importance that collaboration, being able to really establish that confidence.
Yep.
That I need to be able to speak up for myself, and I can speak up for myself, and then I can communicate, and I can collaborate. And so through adversity, you build character. And
Right.
so it's like, okay. And so it starts to expose those characters within our client. And so we model it. And so what I see, and my hope is like a next generation of critical thinkers, of depression era type mentality, where
Oh,
I really had very few resources, but the resources that I had, I used the most
maximize them.
effectively.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see. I really see a generation of truly creative,
You're
truly
gonna,
innovative individuals.
you're going to have to figure this out.
Yeah, you have to.
We're all figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I absolutely. And it's interesting that we deliberately put high school kids in this awkward, uncomfortable position to where in their experience, they've always been the kid.
Yeah.
It's been an adult dealing with a kid. It's parent, child, teacher, student. And now we put them in this position where it's peer to peer.
Yeah.
You're the provider, and these are your clients. They're not looking at you like kids. They're looking at you like somebody who can solve their problem. How are you going to do it? And it seems to me it's of value to learn that lesson at 16 and go through and start practicing that at 16, 17 rather than 25.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we kind of put them in that spot and say, here you go. How are you going to do this?
I like the way that you framed that question. When I saw it, it's like putting them in with adults. It's like, look, I've worked with adults that still act like children, adolescents. And I've worked with adolescents that had a higher maturity level. And so
Absolutely.
it's getting them to realize that you've got talents and traits. You've got abilities that other individuals don't have. All it depends on what do you want to do with them. And
Right.
so the San Antonio College SAC engineering department reached out to the Doseum, and we were working with them through Dr. Vanessa Westbrook also, when she pioneered it as with their engineering department, because they had a need that engineers were going to go into the field of education. Yet they were great engineers, but they did not do so well in regards to the pedagogy. They did not do so well in regards to instructional methods. And so senior educators, such as myself, would go into the college classroom and communicate, talk with the soon-to-be engineers. And so they were given a task, an engineering design task, that I am the client, and so I have a need for an educational exhibit in the Doseum. So their grade was dependent on presenting, building, and then bringing their exhibit into the actual museum and have it interact with our guests, the students. So the number one thing the professor told me is like, they don't understand that how to engage with the client. And so I like you, Mr. Eugene, because I came in, I said, I'm the teacher. This is what I want. And so, okay. And so I said, no, the teacher's never right. And it's like, you really got to start to listen to this and start to see and ask questions. And he liked that. And so the professor liked that, where he says, yes, they got to have this ability to converse with me. So tell me a little bit about yourself. And so it's just like anything that we do in the classroom with our student. We get to know them personally before we start to really modify the instruction, the learning for them. Because I tried to tell them, it's like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I want. You're going to go build it. You're going to bring it back, and I'm going to get upset with you. And then you're going to shake your head and say, we gave you exactly what you wanted. And I'm thinking, that's not how education is. It's like, we all know that we want our students to succeed, but success looks differently for every single student.
Yeah.
And so every client is unique. And so the last 2 years, I had the ability to work with these students. I saw a vast improvement. I saw them coming to the Doseum, asking for me, and then asking if I could walk them through it. I said, that's you got the job. I said, showing up's half the battle, man. It's like, you showed up. And so, and you asked all the right questions.
Right.
You looked at the environment that you were building in. And so the professor even said, you know what, I also saw it. These are engineers that really need to understand different aspects of the job. It's because from an engineer's mentality, I can design it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that design is going to function in the environment that's going to be taken into. And so that's what education is. People were wondering, it's like, how can a student do so well just in a classroom and fall apart just because they're at home? It's because of the way it's designed. It's the intent, the goal. You've got to be able to have that relationship or the ability to see how changing one aspect is going to alter the entire dynamic. And so being very scheduled, being very time management aware, all teachers have it. And so it's just easier when we're in a classroom because we have our little timekeepers. We are the way the living environment of the classroom functions, the way it breathes. And so it was different. But getting to know our students and getting them to be aware that, yes, you're out of that ecosystem. You have to be very aware of your new ecosystem because it has a dynamic within itself. And so mastering that is becoming a lot more simplistic for the educator. And so they're taking that into consideration with their design of instruction. It's like you said, it's every single day we learn something new in the psychology of education.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing. The veil that lifts.
Yeah.
It's how long has this been going on? Why am I just now finding out about this? I want to talk about how the nonprofit world is changing. We've talked about how education is changing. The nonprofit world is changing too. And you get to come at that those two topics, the changes in education and the changes in the nonprofit world, you get to deal with both of those because you're involved in both of those. How do you see the future for nonprofit organizations? How are they going to operate? How are they going to survive?
All I know right now is the big corporations and HEB, the Spurs Foundation, Whataburger's been doing great for the education community through the Doseum. And so well, the way they look at it, it's no longer like, you know what, I just want to help. The thing is, though, I need to help somebody learn how to fish. And so that's the way I view it, because corporations, I'm going to be honest with you, we all have a little bit of selfish intent. And so I got into education because I wanted to be immortal. And so people laugh at that. So what do you mean? I say, look, if I could teach somebody something, my name's going to live on forever. It's like, and so that's why I got into education. The corporations got into it because they need individuals that bring back that relationship to the corporation, bring back what a lot of individuals are saying. Like, we got soulless entities, big, huge corporate entities. We need to bring that soul. We need to bring that spirit back to it. And so those come through education. Those come through their employees. They want that creativity once more. They don't want mindless drones.
No.
They want individuals that innovate.
Yeah, mindless drones are cheap.
Yeah.
There's plenty of those around. I think one of the things that the pandemic has revealed, a lot of things, but one of them is that the vital role that nonprofits play in our society. When you look at all the food banks and all the meal deliveries and the way the nonprofit community, the way people have stepped up and volunteered to man those centers to make sure everybody's got something to eat. And I'd like your take on the future of nonprofits. Does that, will nonprofits change? Will the way they do business change?
Well, I see is like a lot of individuals now coming to that aha moment that nonprofits serve a very vital component. And so I go back to is kind of being an educator. You're a nonprofit because you didn't get in it for money. It's
right.
like I
No,
know,
you didn't.
I can precisely remember when I told my mother I was going to be a teacher, and she cried. And
Oh,
so
no.
because she said, because you're going to be poor. And so a lot of individuals say, well, I work for a nonprofit. It's like, yeah, but I make a good living. And then besides that, I'm passionate about what I do. I wake up in the morning and I look myself in the mirror and say, I do good. And so not many individuals get that opportunity. So that's what I see the future of nonprofits is, where individuals are going to come back and say, through this dark period of time, the food bank was there. Through this dark period of time, the local mom and pops came together. I mean, I got nothing against national franchise, but I made it a point to make sure that I ate or I had to purchase something from a local vendor. And so I went out and I found it. It's like, look, a lot of people say, like, you know, Mr. Gene, you're a foodie. And it goes, yeah, I do like to eat food, but I really want to find out that the individuals that's in my community, in my neighborhood, is a chef. And it's like these are individuals that are great at what they do, and I'm going to support them. And so I see more and more of that happening. I see more and more of individuals taking on the mantle of, I need to give back. And I am going to give back because I get the opportunity to work with the nonprofits, and all they really want is they want me to succeed. That's what I see. It's like every true nonprofit, that's what we want. We want the community to get stronger. Right. We want everybody to succeed.
Yeah, because you're right. You're certainly not in it for the money.
No.
Yeah, but I get a lot of satisfaction out of what I do that I couldn't buy. Money can't replace that. So I'm okay.
And so I met the individuals and I tell them the stories of their donation, helping
yes.
and impact us. And it wasn't my intent, but I made one donor cry. Is because of the story that I told her about how the engagement of San Antonio ISD students had with the exhibit that she funded. And she goes, I need to know that. She goes, I knew I wanted to do good, but now these stories and the way that you paint that picture, I say it's easy to tell the truth. I mean, it's like I see this on a daily basis. You have no idea of the joy that exhibit brought to an individual. Yeah. And then it's going to ripple effect. They,
Right.
they go home and talk to their caregiver, and the caregiver thinks like, you know what, I need to take my child back here. I
Yeah.
need to keep doing things like this.
I need to keep turning this light on again and
Yep.
again and again. Absolutely. Absolutely. You were one of the judges at Bearfest
Yep.
this year, so you got to look at you got to see all the entries, and you got a good long time to go through them and
I had to
assimilate
listen
and
to 3
digest.
times each.
And we make a big deal about the awards. There are no participation awards. You don't get anything just for showing up. You
Yeah.
got to step up. And so I'd like your take as an educator on the value of that we give these kids a pretty daunting task. You have to go into a nonprofit organization and figure it out, understand what they do, assimilate what they do, put it in your own words, and feed it back to the community in a way that will engage them. And you can't do half of that. You either do it all or you don't do any of it. So we give them a mountaintop
Yes.
to climb to, and then we celebrate it when they reach that mountaintop. We make a big deal out of it at the premiere at the Tobin when we hand out the awards, and we bring them up on stage and they see their video on a giant screen with 1,000 people in the audience. What's the value as an educator? I'd like your perspective on what's the value of giving young people that kind of a challenge and then celebrating it when they achieve it, when they succeed.
Is because it gives them the opportunity that everybody wants to succeed, and we call it gamification. Everybody wants to level up. And so, but what I look at it, and what I remember getting your invitation, and I really kicked myself because I had another prior engagement. I wasn't able to make it to there, because what I would have told the individuals, each and every single one of them, there were times when I was listening to the podcast I had to stop. It brought tears to my eyes as I had to recenter myself. It's like, man, they did a great job. They were able to really get, and I looked at it because when I listened to it 3 different ways. I needed to know the first time in that podcast when they were communicating with the individual they're interviewing, they got the why. Why am I doing this? And then I focused on how they were doing it and then what it was. And so it was those individuals that all got the why that impact me here. And so it's what the student needs to realize. It's like, yes, it's more than a yes or no. It's more than a true or false. It's being able to bring to light the passion that the individual that you're interviewing has. And sometimes it's reluctantly being able to bring it out, but do their how. And so that's why I knew some of the individuals really mastered the art of communicating, being
Right.
able to pick up on the nuances and follow those threads. And so, and then there's some whats where, you know what, there was nothing wrong with the podcast. It was spot on, like what everybody envisions a podcast should be, but it might have been missing one of the other components. And so that's what a student starts to see. And sometimes as an educator, it really upset me in regards to formal testing, because that wasn't the true child. That was just an individual sitting down for 4 hours and doing a test, and boom, I got it. But they don't really get to know the true child. And so you got to really look at the whole child. You really got to be able to say that, you know what, this individual may not hit what we consider exceptional or mastery, yet you don't have any understanding in regards to the struggle that they took to get to where they were currently at. Because I know they look at it the opposite way, where you have an individual that scores at a 99 percentile, but what experts will tell you, they understand truly how hard it is to get that 1 more percent
Right.
and get it up. Where as opposed to an individual that went from a 50th percentile all the way up to a 70 percentile. And so you got no
That's a
understanding.
massive
Yeah.
improvement. Yeah.
And so, but it looks like, but it wasn't that 90. It's like, but you have no understanding. And so giving the high school students the ability to do this. And I really listened to it. I remember coming home and talking to my wife in regards to some of the topics that were covered. And I'm thinking, they handled it so well. They handled it with such maturity.
Right.
And so I could really understand the why. This is something that was important for both parties, and
Exactly.
it came through. It was a good fit, as opposed to somebody thinking, well, I'm just going to do it because it's controversial, or I'm just going to do it because it's in the news lately. No, it was something that it spoke to me personally, and I need to bring it to light.
That's great. That's great. And it's encouraging to me to hear your feedback as somebody who knows a lot more about education than I do. to reinforce that what we're doing has value. Not only, and I appreciate the fact that it's not only valuable to the kids, to the students, but to the nonprofits as well, that
Yeah.
they get to engage with these kids and perhaps even see their own organization, their own operation through a new set of eyes, that not quite as jaded, not quite as
Yes.
familiar with what's going on, and different expectations. That, yeah, that can go, oh, I didn't know we were doing that, because there's so many unexpected consequences of what BexarFest has turned into that we never intended, that all of a sudden it's become a much bigger thing than what we just wanted to start out, give kids a chance to make videos for nonprofits. It's evolved into so much more than that. But thank you. Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for your insight. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, like I said, the proof in the pudding would be, I remember telling my wife that I want my daughters to do that. When they have the opportunity to do BexarFest, it's like, that's what I want for the Jimenez girls. And so that's when I feel that's when I know something is successful. When somebody embraces it in such a way and says that, you know what, that's what I want for my own child.
We'll see them in BexarFest 2027.
Yes. It's like, yep. It's like, and that's definitely something they are going to aim for. So you keep up the good work, Randy. I mean,
Well,
like I said, I
thank
was
you.
very impressed with the product. I was very impressed with what you sent my way.
Well, I'm glad we're able to have a positive impact. That's part of what being here is all about.
Yeah.
All right, Eugene, thanks again. I appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
All right, Randy.
Take care.
Take care.